Well, South Africans were once again appalled by the ongoing high rate of crime this week. Despite murders coming down, nearly 7,000 people were murdered during July and September this year. And guns, again, the weapon of choice. More than 3,000 of the murders were committed with firearms nationwide. GunFree South Africa has called for more stringent measures to control the proliferation of firearms. To discuss, we're joined by Adele Kirsten from GunFree South Africa. Ms. Kirsten, thank you for being with us. Let's first look at your claim that murders particularly can come down significantly if the guns aren't available. How do you back up that claim?
Good evening, Francis. We're actually back at the gun-related murders that we were in 1998. Which was the year that we posted the highest murder and the highest gun-related murders in our country. So that was 34 gun deaths a day. 25 years later, we are back at that number. What happened in 1998 is that, in a way, it was new government. SABC were galvanized to develop a fairly comprehensive sort of multi-pronged strategy, not just to deal with firearms, but a very specific targeting the reduction of murders. And over a 10-year period, it was successful in doing that. So in 2009, data from our mortuary studies and from the Medical Research Council showed that we'd reduced our gun deaths to 18. And that was also the year around about 2011 where we posted the lowest murders overall in the country. And we now have seen since 2011, so we're seeing over the last 12 years, a steady year-on-year increase in murders and in gun-related murders. They tend to track each other. So what happened in the late 90s, I guess, was really two very important things. One was intelligence-driven operations, which targeted getting guns off the streets, working with our neighboring states in getting rid of caches and destroying them. The second was significant legislative reform, so a strengthening of our national gun laws. Those were two of the single most impactful interventions by the SABC. So what SABC did 25 years ago is look at the data. What does this data tell us about what's happening? And the interventions were geared towards reducing murder and reducing gun-related murder. And it was successful.
Has the legislation changed?
The legislation has not changed, but we're 20 years into the legislation, and there are significant loopholes in the legislation. Plus, over the last, let's say, 10 to 15 years, one's seen a real increase in organized crime, and one's seen a real increase in the number of weapons moving from the legal into the illicit market. So, again, both strategies of removing illegal weapons from circulation, because these are the weapons that are killing people. Most gun crime, illegal weapons are used. So it's critical that those weapons are removed from circulation. But there is significant fraud and corruption in the entire firearms control management chain, which has resulted in the fraudulent issuing of licenses, which has resulted in the selling, lending, moving of guns from like SABC 13 stores, loss and theft from cops, but also from civilians. And the gun law, which came as an amendment in 2021, addressed some of these loopholes. And for the last 2 years, it's been sitting on the minister's desk and has not been brought to Parliament.
And you also talk about this incredible reduction between 1998 and 2009, 34 per day, gun deaths to 18, that's huge. So it sounds like the intelligence that you spoke about and the police work on the ground that was happening then is just not happening now. Is that correct?
We don't see evidence of it. And GunFree has repeatedly called for the re-establishment of the specialized firearms units. These are, dedicated police officers whose information is intelligence-driven. This is the kind of intervention you need. I think one of the things that really was disheartening and very distressing was sitting in that meeting on Friday morning when the minister released the crime stats or discussed them with the Portfolio Committee on Police. There was business as usual. There was no outrage. There was no sense of urgency that something has to change. And that's what's really disheartening, is there certainly doesn't appear to be evidence that SABC is taking the steady increase in murder and gun-related violence seriously.
All right, thank you very much. That was GunFree South Africa's director, Adele Kirsten. So what we're talking about is the crime stats, and more than 70 South Africans are killed in this country each and every day. Specifically there, around 30, more than 30 of them killed with guns.